This is Reverend Dr. Michael Leike. Join myself, Julie Turner, coach and hypnotherapist, on today's show. Move forward and past hindrances and obstacles to being all that you can be.
Talk about how our society is kind of backwards in its thinking, in my opinion. We don't support mental wellness. We support things like discipline and growth, moving things forward, which is all wonderful. But sometimes we actually need to take a step back and see what people really need. And in my oh so humble opinion, not very humble, what we need, what we're all looking for, what we're all searching for, is unconditional love. But we live in a society that is built on conditional. Everything we learn is with conditions. So I'm a hypnotherapist and a coach, and I've taken some counseling. I'm not a clinical counselor, but I have done some counseling. And I now train people to do hypnotherapy. And the reason that I do that is because I love what I do. I truly want to help and support people, but I realize that I can't do it by myself. And so grateful for people like Dr. Michael, who actually was my Reiki master. So I do have Reiki as well. It's not something that I tend to speak about because honestly, it's just something that I utilize without even really thinking. And so people like Terry, who's going to be up next, she's also a trainer. And the more people that we can actually support to support others, the better this society will be. So when I spoke to Dr. Michael originally, he said, we're going to talk about limiting beliefs. And I'm like, got this. Because limiting beliefs are everywhere. They are running rampant in our society. And no matter how aware and woke we are, we still have them on a daily basis. I see it everywhere, including in my own life. I will often have a story around why things happen. And tell myself, well, that happened because of ... as opposed to just believing that sometimes things are. I love the idea that, Dr. Michael brought so many things to the table. This list was not born until I sat down in that chair, because I'm like, oh, that's and thank you for bringing so many things to the table. And the reason I say that is I've already said what my modalities are, what I like to use. But I truly believe that if we're talking to anybody, whether it's a client, a friend, a stranger on the street, if we give them time and space, if we value them, if we show them that they matter, their day will get better, their life will get better. Because again, that's what we're looking for. And not because they did something for us, not because they can offer us something, but just because they are. So all these different modalities that you go to see people for, it's brilliant. And you have some to offer yourself, whether or not you are trained. And I can stand up here and I can mention different schools that I went to and that kind of thing, but I truly believe that that's unimportant. I think that those schools were taught by somebody that didn't know any more than I do. It's just they've learned it. So there's a couple things that I really, really hope and want you guys to get out of today. And the first thing is about learning. So if you actually truly learn things today, what will happen is you won't repeat my words. You will repeat what they meant to you. We all see the world with a different lens, but often learning is memorizing. So somebody will go to a seminar and you'll be like, I learned something new today, but what you did is you memorized what somebody else told you. I would love you to learn. Remember how you felt, remember what it brought up for you. And the other thing is to challenge everything I say if it's outside of your intuition to believe it. So I do teach, and I do have at least one student in this audience. And I say that on a regular basis. If this doesn't make sense to you, if it's against your intuition, then by all means challenge me. Ask me questions, just don't utilize the information. That is not learning. If it's against your intuition, then what you're doing is memorizing. Again, challenge everything. Please try not to memorize. Please try and actually learn. We all have intuition. And that's the next thing I want to talk about, because I love talking about intuition. And a lot of you in this room are, arguably very metaphysical. And I don't think of myself as metaphysical at all. I come from a very conservative city with a very conservative background where I have led with logic my entire life and very disciplined in my thinking. Big mistake. We all have intuition, and I cannot tell you how many times in my life I have wholeheartedly stepped on my intuition and ignored it and ended up in the wrong place. Now that's my journey. I have no regrets. My journey was possibly to learn what intuition actually is and to start utilizing it, which much better at these days. And if I can support anybody in learning the difference between their intuition, their ego, and one that we often forget, which is their feelings, then yay. I'm so glad to be able to do that. So I do want to talk about how many of you are like 100% sure I know what my intuition is and I follow it all the time. Anybody? Awesome. We're all flawsome. #flawsome. That is great. Because again, daily basis, I'm like moving forward. No, little voice in my head says I shouldn't move forward. I'm like, listen, little voice, I got this. Like my intuition said yes. And then all of a sudden there's a feeling. But my feeling draws me over here. And then I'm totally off in crazy land. Our intuition is put in place for a reason, and it is 100%. And I don't use definitives very often. People that know me are like, ooh, that's pretty crazy. It's 100% on our side, but you have to know what your intuition is. Your intuition has no voice, and it has no feeling. It's forward or not. That's all that it is. It is not an emotion that comes. All that stuff is learned behavior afterwards. So intuition, inherent to you, all the other stuff, learned behavior. Anybody have a clue why we often don't follow our intuition? Yay, let me answer that one then. Okay.
Because I think sometimes, like you don't want to do what your intuition's telling you to do, right?
But why? Why don't we want to do that?
Well, that's a good question.
Right, that is a wonderful question. So, fear, yes.
You don't want to do it
But why?
because you feel like it's not right, even though your intuition is telling you, yeah, that's right.
So fear.
I guess so.
It's really levels of fear. And fear can look like many different things. Fear can be like I'm actually afraid. Fear can be so-and-so will judge that. Fear is really the very baseline, but it is what gets in the way of our intuition. And the fact is, and I've researched this a ton, and I love this subject, so somebody's gotta like take the hook and get me off the stage at a certain point, so Terry can actually speak. But our intuition, again, we've stopped it from a long time ago. We don't use our intuition for when to eat, because we have dinner time. Why would we need our intuition? We're gonna eat at noon, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to bed at a certain time, because somebody told me I needed 8 hours of sleep, so that's clinically the best thing for me. Where did they get that information? Studies, for sure, but did they study me? Nope, they didn't. So we need to start following our intuition, and we're not trained to. That's not supported in our society. So we have all these fears that if we actually follow our intuition, we're gonna be judged. I love the subject of judgment. Because judgment happens in your head, not in the other person's head. You have no idea what that person's reality is. And even if they are going, oh, I can't believe she wore those shoes. They're not remembering that 5 minutes later, who cares? I like my shoes, so I'm gonna wear them. All these things, all these huge things that stop us, these fears, the next day are still only in our own head. And yet, we're paralyzed. We haven't moved forward. And it all goes back to not following our intuition, because we want unconditional love, but everything's conditional. And that is really the baseline of my entire practice. Why are you stuck? I'm stuck because I have fear. They look at it as many different things. They're afraid to give up an addiction. They're afraid to give up a relationship. They're afraid to take a course that maybe somebody wouldn't want them to take. So all this fear, and all of those things are not following our intuition because they want unconditional love. But let's look at that subject of unconditional love. I wrote probably 10 years ago, I wrote quite a large piece on unconditional love and how crazy that was. Like it exists. We think we're gonna get it from our pets. But how many times has your dog peed on your bed because you didn't come home in time? That's not unconditional love. So we can't even get it from our pets. But the fact is that we actually can get it. We can give it to ourselves. And our unconditional love comes when we start following our intuition, stop worrying about our judgment, stop caring what other people are going to say. So, intuition, 100%. You got your intuition, which is move forward, don't move forward. You got your feelings, which will often get in the way. And then we have our ego, which will tell us a story, which often conflicts with the other two things. So, again, if I can give you anything in leaving today, it's that your intuition is 100% correct, and question everything I just said. Thank you very much.
Move forward and past hindrances and obstacles to being all that you can be.